I think that's, well, yeah, and I think we need to remember that this is what terrorists do. They say they're going to attack. You talk about ISIS being like the only consistent one. There have been groups that have been consistently trying to say that they're attacking America. They've been saying that they're going to do this since well before ISIS became what it was, and before that, when it was AQI and whatnot. That's not anything new. There's no new groups saying we want to attack New York, we want to attack Chicago.
That's not new, but ISIS's tactics thus far are new in that they have done everything they said they were going to do thus far. They've mobilized themselves into a caliphate. They're an army. They've taken over territory. They're well equipped. They're well funded. They have Western fighters. Some say up to 3,000. But Western, not necessarily American, but you know, we don't know. The numbers were wrong initially about how many of these ISIS fighters there were. At first they said, oh, it's about 10,000. Now they're like, oh, wait, actually it might be 35 to 40. I mean, they have consistently, and now they're beheading people. They said they're going to behead them. They did. So we haven't, you know,
the debate over which one of you two are right is the debate that is so important to have, because it has a cost either way. If we're underplaying it, the cost is clear. We're not protecting ourselves from a potential attack. If we're overplaying it, to your point, Anthony, I'll give you the Australians, and they had a very real threat to their homeland over the past week. But this is the kind of debate that Australia has. They're putting into place new anti-terror measures which require anybody returning to Australia from a conflict zone to prove that they are not a terrorist. You must prove that you are not a terrorist. This is what the Australian former Human Rights Commissioner said. Australians don't have a civil rights culture. Ever since white settlement, our culture has been about equality. It's about having a fair go. And more recently, it's been about non-discrimination. Americans put civil liberty ahead of equality. Australians put equality ahead of civil liberties. This is the debate we've had consistently over liberty versus security. Australians seem ready to trade liberty for security.
Well, and a big part of this really is how much concern do we have about a single terrorist strike? Because I'm willing to admit that from my perspective, thinking that we are overhyping the threat that ISIS poses to the United States, I'm also willing to admit that that view comes from I know that a terrorist attack would be terrible, but I also know that it wouldn't destroy America. So if our perspective is we have to prevent any possible attack of any kind, whether it's a single person getting beheaded or a hit on Chicago or like a Boston Marathon type bombing, that is going to lead to the instinct to, well, we're underplaying the threat, we've got to do everything we're coming from.
Jim, I'm sorry. Just before we go, because we're almost out of time, and I don't mean to give you too simplistic of a question, Jim, but if we are erring in one direction, overhyping or underplaying the ISIS threat, what's your bet? Which way are we making the mistake?
Well, look, this is a no-brainer. We've been under terrorist threat since 9/11. You know, at Heritage, we track the number of plots. There are over 60 Islamist-inspired terrorist plots in the United States. We've consistently seen a couple of them in the years. Some of them have been homegrown, some of them overseas. So, you know, is somebody new trying to kill us? Well, you know what, dude? Join the club.
All right, Jim. Thanks.